They thought humanity would kneel, that 12 million deaths would silence our voice. But Earth doesn't bow. Earth doesn't forget. And now, the galaxy will learn why our legends are born in fire, forged in revenge, and unrelenting in fury. If you think you can survive the wrath of humans, think again. Hit that subscribe button, join the resistance, and witness a war the universe will never forget. They thought humanity would kneel. They thought that 12 million lives taken would silence our voice, would erase our defiance. But the Galactic Empire was wrong. Every death they broadcast across the stars was a spark lighting a fire they could never hope to extinguish. Cities burned, oceans boiled, entire populations vaporized in seconds. Families vanished while alien cameras recorded their screams as entertainment for a billion worlds. The Empire celebrated in cold arrogance, gloating over the destruction, convinced that the humans were weak, primitive, expendable. But they didn't understand what it meant to be human, how resilience is bred through suffering, and fury forged in loss. On Earth, those who survived stared at the empty screens where the faces of their loved ones once were. Mothers who had given life now carried nothing but memory, fathers who had promised protection were broken by guilt, yet none surrendered. Silence fell over the planet only briefly, a breath held in mourning, before determination surged like a tidal wave. Humanity did not cower. Humanity did not cry alone. Across every continent, every settlement, whispers of revenge began to stir, spreading faster than any viral signal, faster than any warning the Empire could broadcast. The whispers spoke of the warlords, the legends of Earth, 7 humans whose names alone could instill terror in the most advanced alien mind. They had fought in wars no other human had survived, they had faced horrors even the Empire would rather forget, and now their time had come. The Empire, in its hubris, believed they had struck a fatal blow. They had televised the massacre, showing billions across the galaxy that humans were fragile, that resistance was pointless, that the species would vanish quietly. But each broadcast carried with it a seed of rage, a proof that humanity was worth fear. Survivors watched those broadcasts in hidden bunkers, among ruined cities, in ships fleeing collapsing colonies. They memorized every detail, every strategy the aliens had flaunted, every weakness revealed in their arrogance. Every televised death became a lesson in tactics, every scream a rallying cry. Humanity was learning, adapting, and preparing, not to plead for mercy, but to claim vengeance. The Galactic Empire's arrogance knew no bounds. They sent fleets not just to conquer, but to exterminate. They believed that by destroying families, children, and entire generations, they would break the spirit of a planet. Yet they did not account for human adaptability. Those who survived learned to fight in the shadows, to communicate through untraceable channels, to weaponize what the Empire considered obsolete. They turned the ruins of their cities into laboratories of destruction, transforming grief into ingenuity. Human scientists, engineers, and soldiers collaborated without pause, their work fueled by rage and sorrow. The Empire's broadcasted hubris became the blueprint for humanity's uprising. In the heart of the ruined cities, the first of the warlords emerged. They were not leaders chosen by title or birth, but by action, by survival, by mastery of warfare in ways the Empire could not predict. Their names were whispered in secret among those who had survived, legends etched into the memory of the living. Each warlord had lost everything, yet none were broken. Some had witnessed entire worlds incinerated. Others had survived boarding actions where only 1 in 1,000 lived. Each had fought impossible battles, each had defied death, and each had cultivated a cunning that matched their wrath. Now, they were the nucleus of humanity's retaliation, the embodiment of every life the Empire had thought it had erased. Every transmission from the Empire carried unintentional warnings. They displayed tactical arrogance, underestimated human ingenuity, and revealed vulnerabilities without realizing it. These broadcasts were dissected, analyzed, and memorized. Humanity watched their enemies gloat, noting the weaknesses of their ships, the rigidity of their command structures, the predictable arrogance in their communications. Every detail became ammunition in a war that had not yet been officially declared. The humans were silent, yes, but in their silence, a storm was forming, calculated and merciless. By the time the Empire realized the scope of the threat, their fleets would be ghosts, their stations nothing more than wreckage orbiting empty planets. Children who survived the initial slaughter grew up in bunkers, trained in the arts of survival and warfare before they even reached adulthood. Cities that had been leveled became training grounds for guerrilla tactics, laboratories for weaponized innovations, and fortresses of human ingenuity. The Empire's broadcasts had revealed their own methods, and humans were already developing countermeasures. From the ashes of tragedy, humanity had forged a new breed of soldiers, a generation that had never known peace but had learned cruelty and strategy at the same time. They were ready, and they were patient, knowing that when they struck, the Empire would not have a chance to recover. Everywhere, from shattered metropolises to hidden moon bases, humans communicated in hushed, encrypted channels. They shared maps of alien territories, details of weak points, every scrap of intelligence captured during the Empire's overconfidence. The 12 million deaths, though horrific, had created a shared bond, a singular purpose: retaliation. Families, nations, entire planets bound together by grief, pain, and rage, were now united in one unstoppable objective. The Empire had hoped to destroy humanity's spirit, but in doing so, it had forged it into a weapon sharper than any starship cannon. The first step of humanity's vengeance would not be subtle. It would be surgical, devastating, and precise. No human would be left behind, no alien would be underestimated, no victory incomplete. The warlords had convened, the plans had been laid, and every survivor had a role to play. The Empire had killed millions, yes, but in the ashes of that massacre, the seeds of total retribution had taken root. And when humanity finally moved, it would not be a whisper in the galaxy, it would be a roar no civilization could ignore. The message was clear, carried not through words, but through action yet to come. The humans they thought weak had been tested in fire, and the fires had not burned them down. They had forged weapons of survival, armies of cunning, and legends that the galaxy would come to fear. Humanity had not bowed. Humanity had not begged. And now, the galaxy would learn the first lesson of a war it never saw coming. No one kills 12 million humans and survives unscathed. The survivors did not wait for the Empire to strike again. They struck first, in spirit, in strategy, in preparation. Across Earth and its scattered colonies, humanity began to organize, not as nations, not as governments, but as a singular force united by loss and vengeance. The whispers of the warlords were no longer legends, they were instructions, strategies, and inspiration. Those who had survived the massacre shared intelligence, passing maps, schematics, and secret codes through channels the Empire could never trace. Every broadcast, every transmission, every move the aliens made became a lesson for the humans. They had been slaughtered, yes, but now they were learning faster than the galaxy could keep up. The 7 warlords were chosen not for rank or birthright, but for survival, ingenuity, and ruthlessness. Each had faced death in forms the Empire could not imagine. One had survived an orbital bombardment that had vaporized an entire city, another had infiltrated and destroyed a supply fleet single-handedly, another had outmaneuvered an alien dreadnought in combat where only instinct and human cunning had prevented annihilation. Together, they were not just soldiers, they were symbols, the embodiment of every life the Empire had tried to erase, the living proof that humanity could not be defeated. They gathered the survivors, forming councils of strategy, combining genius with rage, intellect with fury. Weapons were redesigned, re-engineered, and reinvented. What the Empire considered primitive became deadly. Humans developed adaptive armor, ships that could hide in plain sight, and projectiles capable of neutralizing the Empire's most advanced shields. Gravity fields were twisted, energy conduits reversed, artificial intelligence manipulated to act in ways the aliens never anticipated. Entire fleets of human-made drones could strike simultaneously across different planets, leaving the Empire bewildered and vulnerable. Every tool, every scrap of technology, every fragment of knowledge became a weapon in the hands of the warlords. Training was relentless. Children who had survived the massacre learned tactics from birth, mastering both human ingenuity and guerrilla warfare. Adults who had escaped devastation transformed their grief into discipline and strength, honing their minds and bodies for the war to come. Intelligence operatives infiltrated alien colonies, sabotaging systems and gathering information. Engineers worked feverishly to turn captured alien technology against its creators. Every survivor had a role, every person a purpose. There was no hesitation, no distraction, no weakness tolerated. Humanity was preparing for war, and every single human knew that failure was not an option. The warlords themselves led by example. They did not command from distant rooms. They were present in the labs, on the simulation decks, in the hidden bunkers. They devised the first strikes, the contingency plans, the secret codes that would confound the Empire. Each warlord had an area of specialization: tactics, intelligence, engineering, combat, but together they were a unified force of chaos and precision. Their reputations alone were enough to cause fear in those who had once considered humans disposable. Every communication that escaped Earth carried the subtle undertone of inevitability. Humanity was not just surviving, humanity was calculating. The Empire remained blind to what was happening. They assumed the survivors would be scattered, fractured, and demoralized. They boasted across the stars that the Massacre had pacified humanity, that resistance was meaningless. But this arrogance became humanity's greatest advantage. Every flaw, every underestimation broadcast by the aliens was absorbed, analyzed, and transformed into strategy. Humans anticipated attacks before they happened, developed defenses before the first strikes could land, and planned offensives that would exploit every mistake the Empire had made. They were patience and fury combined into one unstoppable entity. Communication across human colonies was silent to the Empire but vibrant among themselves. Secure networks allowed for instant coordination between planets, moon bases, and surviving orbital stations. Humans shared information faster than the Empire could track, creating redundancies, decoys, and false trails. Where the Empire saw chaos, humans saw order. Where the aliens saw weakness, humans saw opportunity. Every message was coded in layers so intricate that only trained humans could decode them in time to act. The galaxy had underestimated human intelligence, speed, and adaptability, and now, that mistake was becoming catastrophic for them. Training extended beyond weapons and tactics. Humans studied the Empire's history, their culture, their psychology. They learned their protocols, anticipated their arrogance, and exploited the blind spots of their command structures. Every battle the Empire had ever fought, every victory they had ever celebrated, became a lesson for humans. Nothing was left to chance. Humans were not improvising, they were evolving, adapting, mastering the art of war at a pace no alien species could match. And all of this was done in silence, in the shadows, while the Empire continued to believe that humanity was broken. The warlords held council after council, devising what would become the first true offensive operation, a strike so precise that it would send shockwaves through the Empire, proving that humans were no longer prey. Every survivor contributed, every lesson was tested, and every strategy was rehearsed. Humans who had lost everything worked tirelessly, not for glory, not for recognition, but for the promise that when the time came, the Empire would pay. Their fury was measured, disciplined, and directed with unparalleled focus. The galaxy had not seen such calculated rage, and it was about to learn the cost of underestimating Earth. By the end of their preparation, humans were no longer hiding, they were not surviving, they were ready. Ships bristled with weapons designed to exploit alien weaknesses, soldiers trained to anticipate every move, engineers ready to turn enemy technology against them. The warlords had forged a force born from loss, hardened by fire, and sharpened by intellect. They were the embodiment of vengeance, the heralds of humanity's return to the galactic stage, and the promise that no massacre, no matter how vast, could ever silence the species that refused to die quietly. And as the first signals of their offensive were sent, the Empire still celebrated, oblivious to the storm that had been forming right under their eyes. Humanity had already begun to move, and when they struck, it would not be a warning. It would be the beginning of a reckoning that would echo across the stars, a testament to the warlords, to every survivor, and to the unyielding, unstoppable force that is Earth itself. The first strike came not with hesitation, but with precision that shattered the Empire's arrogance. Humanity had waited, had studied every move, every weakness, and every flaw the aliens displayed in their overconfidence. Operation Earthfire was not a gamble, it was a calculated storm. Fleet after fleet of human ships, bristling with weapons designed to exploit alien vulnerabilities, surged silently through space. Drones, decoys, and hyperspeed vessels moved in perfect synchronization, striking multiple systems at once, overwhelming the Empire's sensors and communication networks. What the aliens had assumed would take months, humans achieved in hours, leaving destruction and confusion in their wake. The Empire had trained for war, yes, but they had never trained for human ingenuity. Where alien fleets expected predictable maneuvers, humans executed strategies that bent the rules of engagement. Ships vanished, reappeared, and struck from unexpected angles. Alien dreadnoughts, built to crush entire planets, were rendered useless by adaptive human technology. Gravity fields twisted, shields collapsed under new energy frequencies, and AI-driven assaults sabotaged their own command structures. Every move humans made seemed impossible, unpredictable, and mercilessly effective. The Empire had anticipated retaliation, but nothing like this. On the front lines, the warlords led by example, not from distant command centers, but at the heart of the offensive. Each warlord specialized in a domain of destruction. One infiltrated enemy fleets undetected, redirecting entire supply lines to explode in chaos. Another targeted command vessels, crippling coordination and leaving fleets to flounder. One warlord manipulated alien AI to turn their own weapons against them, transforming the Empire's greatest assets into liabilities. Every warlord acted with lethal precision, and every action sent a message across the galaxy. Humanity had returned, and it would not show mercy. The aliens had underestimated human adaptability. What they considered primitive tactics were amplified by ingenuity and ruthlessness. Human boarding units infiltrated capital ships, disabling engines, communications, and weapons in minutes. Planetary strikes were surgical, targeting infrastructure and fleets while minimizing civilian casualties where possible. Humanity had learned discipline, balancing vengeance with strategy. Entire battle formations were dismantled before the Empire could react, leaving their leaders scrambling in disbelief. For every human casualty, the aliens lost tenfold, their confidence eroding with every calculated blow. Surprise was humanity's greatest weapon. The Empire's intelligence had assumed humans would follow predictable retaliation patterns, but humans had no intention of fighting by alien rules. Hyper-advanced cloaking systems, synchronized multi-planet attacks, and adaptive AI networks made human strikes impossible to anticipate. While the Empire's command tried to coordinate defenses, humans had already bypassed them, disabling key stations, intercepting communication lines, and sowing confusion across dozens of star systems simultaneously. What was supposed to be a measured response became a galaxy-wide panic in hours. Civilians who had survived previous attacks were mobilized, serving as scouts, engineers, and resistance leaders. Earth's colonies became operational hubs, each contributing intelligence and resources. Humans on the ground sabotaged supply lines, hacked alien databases, and ambushed reinforcements with precision only a species that had endured the worst could achieve. Every act was calculated, every strike deliberate, a testament to human ingenuity and endurance. The Empire was not fighting humans, it was being outsmarted, outmaneuvered, and outclassed on every front. As battles raged, psychological warfare became a cornerstone of human strategy. The Empire's broadcasts, once used to terrorize, now carried reverse messages of fear. Aliens witnessed their most elite vessels destroyed by forces they had considered primitive. Commanders fell in disbelief, soldiers abandoned ranks, and morale plummeted. The humans' silent communication, flawless coordination, and relentless strikes spread rumors faster than fleets could travel. Across the galaxy, whispers began to circulate. Earth was no longer a planet. It was a weapon, a force that had been underestimated at the cost of billions. Every encounter reinforced human superiority in unconventional warfare. Where alien strategies were rigid, human tactics were fluid and adaptive. Starfields became traps, wormholes ambush points, and asteroid belts were transformed into defensive fortresses. Every maneuver, every feint, every strike demonstrated mastery over physics, technology, and psychology. The Empire had created the perfect conditions for its own defeat, and humanity had learned to exploit it. There was no hesitation, no waste, no room for error. Every action carried weight, every move brought them closer to ultimate revenge. The warlords were everywhere at once. One destroyed a key orbital command hub, another neutralized a fleet's navigation systems, a third redirected enemy torpedoes back into their own ships. Humans struck simultaneously across multiple sectors, leaving the Empire scrambling to comprehend the scale of the assault. Alien leaders were forced into constant emergency meetings, issuing orders that were outdated before they could be executed. The human offensive had rewritten the rules of engagement, showing that intelligence, speed, and adaptability were as lethal as firepower. By the time the first wave of Operation Earthfire concluded, the Empire had suffered catastrophic losses. Entire fleets were annihilated, command structures crippled, and communications in chaos. The aliens had no time to regroup, no time to comprehend the skill and ruthlessness of their opponents. Humans had not only avenged a fraction of the 12 million lives lost, They had declared war on a scale the galaxy had never witnessed. The first strike was not just a message, it was a proclamation. Earth's warlords had returned, humanity was united, and the Empire would never recover from underestimating them. Every survivor of humanity, from the smallest colony to the most hidden station, now had a renewed purpose. The first strike proved that their ingenuity, discipline, and fury could topple empires. Humanity had shown that it could fight not just with weapons, but with intellect, strategy, and unrelenting determination. And as the echoes of the attack spread through the galaxy, every alien system learned a simple, undeniable truth. Humans were not prey, they were predators, and their vengeance had only just begun. The galaxy trembled as humanity's retaliation escalated. Operation Earthfire was only the beginning. The warlords had unleashed a series of coordinated assaults that left the Galactic Empire reeling. Entire systems once thought secure were now under human control or in chaos. Alien fleets moved blindly, their command structures fractured by the precision and unpredictability of human strategy. No one had anticipated a species that could think faster, adapt quicker, and strike harder than any machine or protocol could predict. The humans did not simply fight, they dominated. The warlords were the spearhead of this unstoppable force. One dismantled orbital defenses with surgical precision, turning weapons the Empire relied on into traps against themselves. Another led a hyperspeed strike fleet that appeared in multiple sectors simultaneously, erasing supply chains and leaving fleets stranded and powerless. Each warlord operated with autonomy yet in perfect coordination, a network of destruction that the aliens could not comprehend. Rumors spread through the galaxy that a single human could topple what an entire alien armada could not, and these whispers only amplified fear and hesitation among the enemy. Planetary assaults were devastating in both scale and cunning. Humans did not merely attack, they transformed entire worlds into weapons. Energy grids were inverted, communications sabotaged, and military installations co-opted to serve humanity's strategy. Civilian populations were protected whenever possible, not out of mercy, but because humanity's strength lay in discipline and precision. Planets that had been silent witnesses to alien oppression became centers of resistance, armed and coordinated under human guidance. Every victory was both a tactical and symbolic statement. The Empire had underestimated Earth, and the consequences were catastrophic. The warlords' influence extended beyond military might. Alien colonies began to collapse under the psychological weight of human retribution. Fear spread faster than fire, as entire species realized they had misjudged humanity. Commands were ignored, fleets mutinied, and governors fled in panic. Humanity had transformed grief and loss into a force that not only destroyed physical structures but shattered morale. Across the stars, the legend of Earth's warlords grew, a reputation that made even the most advanced alien minds hesitate before issuing orders. The humans were no longer a threat to be negotiated with, they were a reckoning. Technology became humanity's silent partner in this chaos. Captured alien systems were repurposed with lethal efficiency. Human engineers twisted enemy AI to execute precision strikes on their own fleets, turned planetary shields into traps, and reprogrammed communication networks to feed misinformation into the Empire's command channels. Every piece of alien technology they captured became a tool of vengeance. The Empire, confident in its superiority, had inadvertently built the instruments of its own unraveling. And humanity wielded them with mastery born of both intellect and desperation. Civilian resistance movements in previously conquered star systems were guided and armed by humans, amplifying the scale of chaos. Entire sectors rose up, synchronized with the warlords' offensive, cutting supply lines, sabotaging communications, and turning previously loyal alien populations into insurgents. The Empire had faced rebellion before, but never a rebellion so coordinated, so intelligent, and so ruthlessly effective. What the humans lacked in sheer numbers, they compensated with ingenuity, coordination, and an unyielding will to survive and dominate. The warlords became living legends. Stories of their exploits spread across conquered and contested systems alike. One destroyed an entire fleet by redirecting its own hyperdrives into collision courses. Another turned a fortified planet into a trap that annihilated an occupying force without losing a single human soldier. Each action was calculated, each strike precise, and each victory magnified by the fear it instilled. The Empire could not hope to rebuild morale fast enough. Every day, humans proved that no matter the losses, their ingenuity and determination were limitless. The Empire attempted countermeasures, but each response was met with unexpected strategy. Hyperspeed attacks struck at multiple fronts simultaneously, ambushes dismantled entire battalions before reinforcements could arrive, and the human command network remained untraceable. What the Empire thought was chaos was, in fact, perfect order. Humanity had learned to fight like no species before them, combining intellect, courage, and ruthlessness. Their strikes were not mere revenge, they were surgical, disciplined, and unstoppable. Every day, the warlords expanded the reach of Earth's vengeance, turning the tide of war into a spectacle of human dominance. Every victory inspired more humans, more colonies, more systems to join the fight. Alien spies, diplomats, and generals learned the same terrifying lesson. Humans could not be predicted, bargained with, or contained. They were survivors turned predators, and their retribution was absolute. The galaxy witnessed the birth of a legend unlike any before. Humanity had become an unstoppable force, a measure of power not defined by fleets or weapons alone, but by ingenuity, resilience, and the unshakable will to reclaim what had been stolen. The Empire was on the brink of collapse, not just physically, but morally and psychologically. Their arrogance had been their undoing. The warlords continued to coordinate assaults, inspire uprisings, and dismantle the Empire piece by piece. Every action was a demonstration that humans, though outnumbered, outclassed, and underestimated, were capable of reshaping the galaxy on their own terms. By the end of these relentless campaigns, the Empire understood a single undeniable truth: humans were not prey. They were the hunters, and the galaxy would never forget the wrath of Earth's warlords.